Hi there, it's me again, your Lavanya. We are continuing our discussion on Thiruvarutpayan. We have already completed 2 chapters out of the 10 chapters, and we are going to start with a third one. The first chapter spoke about the Supreme and the characteristics of the Supreme. The second chapter, almost 10 verses, right? We had just concluded that we were discussing about the soul, the nature of the soul. Now, from today onwards, for the next 10 days, we are going to discuss about something called as Irul, Mala, Nilai, which means what is that one particular thing which is stopping the soul to reach the Almighty. So we are going to talk about that one particular thing or the element which is so powerful that it is stopping us in reaching the Almighty or even realizing that there is an Almighty. Let's start with the very first verse in Irul Mala Nilai, which is literally translated as what is the characteristics or attributes of the darkness. Now, what do we classify as darkness? That is what we are going to talk about from now on. 21st verse as a cumulative value, as an individualistic one, it is the first verse from the third chapter. Let's look at the verse. Thundrum Bava thuyarum inbum tunai porulum indru என்பது எவ்வாறும் இல். It's a lovely verse which makes us think a little bit deeper. Let's look at something. You look at the vicious cycle that the soul is going through: death, birth, again death, again birth. So the cycle of rebirth is actually happening as a vicious cycle. We are getting into this kind of a whirlpool because of ignorance. Did we realize that the vicious cycle of birth and death is a sorrow? Did we realize that? No. Did we realize the reason for our birth and death recycle, the cycle that we are going through is because of the darkness? No. Did we realize there is something called as the eternal bliss or the happiness that is there in this world? No. Did we realize there is a way to achieve this bliss? The answer is no. You look at it, there are 4 areas or the 4 parts that has been closed permanently from our eyesight, from our thought process. One is the birth and death cycle. The next one is what is the reason for our birth and death. The third one is the Supreme, and the fourth one is how to achieve the Supreme. All 4 has been blocked from us, and what is that which is blocking us? That is nothing but Anavamalam. Anavam is nothing but ignorance. Ignorance, or rather it is one of the darkness that encapsulates this particular soul. 100% it was covering the soul when we were in Kevala Nilai. Right now, to a greater extent, it is encapsulating our mind and intellect. If you look at it, if you want to have a simple analogy for this, look at our house. How many different equipments, electrical equipments we are having in our house, right from aircon, refrigerator, TV, microwave, washing machine, heaters. You know, we have so many equipments which runs on electricity in our home. And have you ever wondered, how is this electricity coming into our house? There is something called as a switchboard from which we are receiving the electricity into our home, but originated from the transformer. We are getting it, the area will have a transformer. From there, the electricity is taken through a small wire, a connection into our house, right? There is a section called as fuse. Have you ever seen that? If you just remove the fuse, every single equipment in our house will not be functioning because the connectivity is not there. If you look at it, right from fan, light, nothing will be operational, nothing will be functional. Why? Because the electricity supply has been stopped. Now, what is happening with us is there is a fuse which is a connectivity which is actually blocking all these things from us, and this fuse name is called as Anavam, ignorance. Now what we have to do is just remove the fuse. It's easy said than done, obviously. So when you say removing the fuse, is it going to be such an easy task? No, that is where we need the God's grace. When you say, oh God, how do I get out of this? How do I realize there is a bliss, there is an eternal state, and how do I achieve that? How do I even start thinking about it? That is what a soul must start longing, and what blocks that is basically the darkness. And what we have to do is realize that there is a darkness. That's the first step of success. All along it has been a blocker. Now we have to take that as all the stumbling blocks, we have to take it as a stepping stone, and we have to start from there. That's number one. That's the first step we have to do. Imagine if someone comes and says, hey, please don't talk about God. There is no one called as God. There is nothing called as rebirth. There is nothing called as karma. One thing we have to do at that particular situation is, please don't go and argue to them. Please don't go and fight with them. Instead, immediately within your mind, just thank God. You know why? Because God has put us in a little bit better position than them to say thank you. At least I have started realizing that you are there. Thank you, God. Don't look down on the others. You don't have to do that, and that is not the purpose of your birth is not that. Not to look down on the others or not to correct others. Your birth is to correct your own self. Your birth is to correct and make sure you achieve the path of the Almighty. So you are not here to be correcting others. Immediately what you have to do is thank God. That's it. Other than that, don't go and argue, don't go and fight, because one thing you have to remember is Shiva means love. Love, even for those people who say there is no Shiva. That is what Saivam teaches us. That's the first lesson we need to learn. So the moment you say, I need to achieve the path of Saivam, I need to achieve the path of the Supreme, I need to achieve the path of the Almighty, the first thing we need to do is just remove all the hatred from our heart that is not needed. The second one is always start thanking God for the opportunity that He has given us. And the third one is start realizing there is something called as Anavam, which is actually blocking everything from us. Our anger, our sorrow, our guilt, whatever we are going through right now is all caused by Anavam. The moment you realize that, you will start rechannelizing your mind towards the Almighty, and that will be the first step of success. I'll come back again with the second verse very soon. Until then, bye-bye.